Hi, I'm John Byrne with Poets and Quants. It is Friday with Sandy, and we're going to do something really cool today. Instead of doing our usual handicap kind of thing, we're going to do a mock interview with a candidate who wants to go to Harvard and Stanford. Now, get this. I don't know how you get a 4.0 in computer science from Georgia Tech, but Eric in San Francisco, you see him here on the screen, got a 4.0. And a 760 GMAT, man, I bow here, okay? He's worked for two unicorns, Pinterest, and he's currently at Samara, and we'll hear a little bit about that. It's a company that's all about the Internet of Things. And Sandy, what do you think? Take it away.
Eric, you were too kind to let his mispronunciation of your company's name. How do you say that?
It's called Samsara.
Yeah, John was thinking of the novel about meeting in Samara or something like that.
There you go.
Yeah, Samsara. Great. Okay, Eric is interested in HBS and Stanford. The HBS, we'll do an HBS mock interview, a real quick version of it. But the two most popular HBS questions are introduce yourself and tell me what you're doing now. So let's start with that. Eric, let's say this is your HBS interview. There's frequently an interviewer and an observer. And the first
observe.
Yeah, John. Hey, Eric, introduce yourself to John.
All right. Hi, guys. My name is Eric. I did my undergrad at Georgia Tech, where I studied computer science. And after I graduated, I started full-time at Pinterest, where I worked as a security engineer for about 2.5 years before moving to my current role. I'm at Samsara right now, which is as John said earlier, an IoT company. And I'm also working on security engineering there.
Okay, John, great that answer.
I think it was succinct and straightforward. One thing he didn't do is connect himself to his work and his study. Meaning, how did you develop this passion or motivation for computer science and security?
Yeah, well, you can't say everything. I thought he did a very good job of getting through the interview. Yeah, I went to this school. I had a job. Job one was here. Job two was here. What you just didn't sound was like you owned it. It sounded like, if you know what I mean.
Well, he sounded like he was reading his resume, right?
That's right. Yeah, but what's the kiss of death in the interview, John? What's the one word that Ms. D. Leopold of beloved memory?
Come off scripted.
Yes. If you come off scripted, no matter how brilliant the script is, it's damaging in the interview. So you really have to internalize the story.
Right, that's why I thought just a couple of sentences about your motivations or your personal interest in this field kind of get you there and get you beyond the resume.
There's a way of telling it as a short narrative. Well, I went to high school in blah blah high school, and then did you go to high school in Georgia?
I didn't. I went to high school in Connecticut.
Connecticut. Okay. I went to high school in Connecticut, and then I went to Georgia Tech for college. I was attracted by their computer science program. After I graduated in year whatever, I joined Pinterest and I worked there for X years. And now I'm at a security engineering firm called Samsara, located in San Francisco. So that way, you get the difference?
Yep.
I was trying to make it sound like I wasn't reading it, even though I was. Right. You know these facts. Okay. Boy, what is Samsara and what do you do there?
Yeah, so we are an industrial IoT company. So IoT meaning Internet of Things. What that boils down to is we sell sensors to industrial companies like power companies, like water utilities, trucking companies, and stuff like that. And what I do there is I work on security, so securing
Yeah,
the company.
how big is the company?
We're about 1,400 employees.
And is it public or private?
We're private. We're still
Yeah.
private. Relatively new company too.
You're valued at over $1 billion already.
Right. I think it's valued at around 5.
Okay.
Yeah. So give me a quick kind of strengths and weaknesses and opportunities of the company.
Of the company? Yeah. So I would say the company is, it's really growing fast. So it's nice to be a part of that wave. And it's a relatively new type of product that we're developing. So, we're really working on like the bleeding edge of technology. In terms of cons, I think, you have the traditional growing pains, and what we are also trying to do is we're trying to branch out into a lot of different business types, like a lot of business units. So at times it can get pretty stressful in one business unit.
Yeah. Hey, John, how's he doing?
I don't know. What do you think?
I think the content is getting shaky and the delivery is not so good. John,
I would say, hey, it's really exciting to be part of a growth story.
Mm-hmm.
And at a company.
I don't care what you say, John. For people out there listening, and for you, Eric, you really have to own this. You should be able to introduce the company and explain it. You go, it's a blah blah company. It was founded by 2 guys. I enjoy working there. But you should be able to say that in a internalized, quickly moving, and clear way. So you can practice on that. It's a very popular question. How would you describe the corporate culture?
I would definitely say it's very customer request driven. It's very product driven. So that leads to, I think sometimes we just get work that comes out of seems like nowhere. But overall,
yeah, that's not strictly speaking corporate culture.
Okay.
That's just a fact of life.
Okay.
Is it highly collaborative?
It is. It's a highly collaborative environment. I think the engineers and product work together pretty closely.
This is important. Okay, we said this before. Corporate cultures, there's kind of 2 cultures. One is called the flat culture, and one is called a hierarchical culture. That's the way to answer corporate culture questions. So what's the answer with you guys?
I would say it's hierarchical. We have GMs at every business unit that.
No, yeah, of course you do, but
right.
how does that affect the culture? A hierarchical culture is you rarely speak to someone 2 notches above you on the totem pole.
I see. I guess we're moving towards that. So in the beginning, when I started, we were more flat. There's definitely been more middle management since, and I think
we're in transition from a
right.
smaller company to one that is got more levels of organization.
Right.
So that's a good answer.
And in the positive way, I think it's always good to be positive in these things, right? So the positive way to express that is that we've grown so quickly that the company had to put more structure into the culture.
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah. What was the culture at Pinterest?
Yeah, Pinterest was very, I guess, segmented by the organizations. So I think like engineering would rarely talk to any other department, but it was still relatively flat within engineering. And
good. That's a good answer. Okay. Here's another typical interview question. What was your best accomplishment at Pinterest?
My best accomplishment? I would say I enjoyed helping out some of the projects that led up to our IPO, and I felt that they were.
John, what does he need for this?
I would say I led several projects that helped the company successfully take the company public.
No, you need to point to one project. So is there one?
Eric, I'm not good at this either.
If you want to, Okay, Eric, you and everyone listening to this, you need to have 3 button accomplishments where you could say, my greatest accomplishment was the 3 months in 2019 where I led a team where we did diligence on what the company was worth as part of our IPO. Okay, something that sounds like that. That might be ridiculous, and then my second accomplishment was doing this, and my third accomplishment was doing this. Everybody needs interview advice. You really need that. So prepare that. Okay.
And you should say it. There were three things that come to mind. Number 1, number 2, number 3.
Well, you could say it that way. You could just say, I think my greatest accomplishment was the 5 months I spent working on our IPO, where I did this project. The IPO thing is a little of a side door. It helps if you've got your best accomplishment is really within your wheelhouse. I led a security project for our leading product for 3 months, and I led a multifunctional team of 5 people, and we accomplished this. Including a multifunctional team in a best accomplishment is a good idea.
And if you're not leading something, you could still say, after all, you just got out of undergraduate school. You could say, I learned to be part of a really great team. And here's what I learned about teamwork. You could do that, right? I mean, after all, he's so young and he's right out of school at Pinterest. He's not going to be leading teams, I don't think.
Have you ever led a team?
I am now, but not at Pinterest. Yeah.
Have you ever led a team since you graduated?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I would talk about that.
Talk about that and the challenges of that and the joys of that.
Yeah. Okay. So mock interview, you have to be able to introduce yourself. You have to talk about what the company is and what it does, what the company's strengths are, what its we don't use the word weakness, we talk about its opportunities. You should be able to describe the corporate culture, and you should be able to describe 3 accomplishments in your resume or your life or whatever. They're not going to hold you to the jurisdictional guidelines. Just have some accomplishments ready to go. Okay, those are very typical interview questions.
Sandy, aren't people often asked, why did they go to a particular institution for their undergraduate?
Yes. Also, very popular question, even though people kind of shake their heads. Why did you attend the university? Where'd you go? Georgia Tech?
Georgia Tech.
Yeah, why did you attend Georgia Tech? Thanks, John.
Yeah. I guess I found out about it through a family friend, and that's when I really started checking it out. I think what ultimately led me to that decision was that Georgia Tech is one of the few schools in the US that has a separate college for computer science. So it meant that it had, really nice facilities and, great resources there. And I think that was a big part of it.
Okay, that is sort of okay. What you want to say is, I went to high school in Connecticut. I was interested in computer science. I was interested in computers. I started looking around for colleges during my junior year. My faculty advisor, this was on her screen, or I had a family friend, or I found them on the internet, or it's one of those things I always knew about given my interest in computers. Did you go visit?
I did, yep.
Yeah. I've given this speech every one of these things.
I see, yeah.
But nobody seems to pay attention to me.
You say, I went to visit and—
Which is good, because I still have a job, yeah, right.
I was wowed.
I went to visit, I was really impressed by this and that. I had a friend who a year ahead of me who went there. She said this and this. Got it?
Yep.
It's not rocket science. You want to try it again? Hey,
Yeah.
how come could you tell me about your decision to go to Georgia Tech?
Yeah, so I was always interested in computers and computer science in high school. And I had a friend who went to Georgia Tech, and that's when I started really checking it out. And I noticed they had a great computer science program and a dedicated college to computer science, one of the few schools in the US that had one. And then when I visited, I really liked the facilities. I really liked talking to some of the students there and just getting the feel on, how campus culture is like, and, a little bit just about the atmosphere. And I just fell in love with campus.
Yeah, what were the facilities like?
Yeah, so they were very new. There was a donor who gave a significant chunk of money to build out these brand new labs, brand new building at Georgia Tech. It's probably less than 20 years old still. So it was just big and new and shiny.
Yeah, okay, that's acceptable. Here's a nasty Harvard question. What was unexpected when you got there?
What was unexpected? I guess the biggest part was just the amount, like the number of people there. I think that was pretty unexpected. I grew up in a relatively small town, so the entire university was the same population, and just seeing people from everywhere, and especially being in Atlanta, I think it was just interesting to see like all the culture there.
I don't know. What had you been expecting? Something very small, not near a city that didn't have many people?
I guess I somewhat expected it, but I think being there really, I think it just was still different.
Yeah, it's a nasty question. You can always say, I'll tell you one thing that surprised me. There were a lot of people there from the Northeast, or specifically, there's always a lot of people. The number of people from New York always surprises people.
Mm-hmm.
Was that true?
I guess there were more people out of state than I expected.
Well, it's an acceptable answer. Or another thing you might say, what was unexpected was they didn't treat first years different. You just got thrown in the pool. I thought there might be courses that first years that they guided you a little bit, but the way they work it there is you're just, you were on your own from day one. If that's true, that's a good answer. Or if there was a lot of attention, you go, what was unexpected was they really held your hand for the first semester. Either one of those will do it. Okay. What was your favorite course? Another question people can never answer.
Yeah, I would say it would be my discrete math course that I ended up TAing. I'm not usually a fan of math, and I think in high school I would think of math as being like as calculus and that type of stuff. And I was just never really into math until I got to take this course, which is more focused on the computer science side of math. And I think just
this is another one of these rambling, unimpressive answers.
Okay.
You really need. This is just my general advice to you. The questions they're going to ask you are no secret. I've been asking them. They're on the internet. You really need contained. I don't want to say punchy, but contained, smart, clear answers to those common questions. You're kind of thinking out loud. That's not a good look.
Okay. How
wouldn't you say? Wouldn't you agree there, John?
Yeah. I mean, you want to be crisp, yet interesting, and not feeling scripted.
How long? There's something else I've said a gazillion times. No one ever flunked an interview for too short an answer. Many people have flunked interviews for answers that are too long. Many people who have given HBS interviews are still talking right now, even though the interview was years ago and the interviewer left the room. They're still answering the question. And HBS is giving them food with drones to keep them alive.
Now, aren't two of the most common questions, why do you want an MBA? What are you going to do with it? And then, why do you want to come here and get it?
Yeah. So yeah, here's a common question. Give me a roadmap after business school.
Yeah, so short term, I think I'd want to do security strategy consulting. And then long term, I probably want to either start my own company or move into a head of security CISO type role.
Yeah, what is security? Give me an example of first job. Like, what are companies that do that, and what would you be doing?
I think, MBB would be the big ones. And then there are a few smaller security boutique shops. And in terms of what I'd be doing, I think it's mostly just
MBB, you mean McKinsey? No, you don't.
BCG.
Yeah,
Yeah.
McKinsey, Bain, BCG. So,
And then also some, yeah.
so
Well,
there,
there's consulting at IBM and Accenture and places like that, which have security practices.
yeah, do McKinsey, Bain, and BCG have practices that deal with security?
I guess more, I guess maybe like more IT related companies too.
You really got to get this straight.
Okay.
You've got a small hill to overcome, which is that when you say computer security, most people already like they're half asleep. So you really have to be able to talk about what that means and what it is and who does it.
Yeah.
Yeah, what would be ideal is you go on the McKinsey Bain BCG website, see if in fact they have a practice, see if they have a practice leader who's written about cybersecurity, and then you can refer to that in your conversation.
Great advice, John. Yeah, it's not against the law to go to the website of McKinsey Bain, and people think it's against the law to use the internet to prepare for your interview. I'm serious.
Yeah, and in fact, I bet you there are McKinsey, Bain, BCG partners who've written on this topic, and then you could research them and say, well, blah, blah, blah did this or that, and I would love to be a thought leader in the field at McKinsey, right? Don't just be a mere consultant. You want to be a thought leader in this field. Yeah. This elevates you from what's considered a back office, boring kind of function into something more, which is what they want. Right?
Sure, but let's focus on the fundamentals. The question is, could you outline your career after HBS? You should be able to do that. You should be able to say a good first job for me would be an associate at a firm like X or Y, or the security division of McKinsey. That would allow me to do this and this. After a number of years there, I might take a leadership position in that firm or possibly start my own firm. And then my long-term goal is to lead my own company. And John, what am I about to say you should add to that?
And become a leader in the field.
Role models for me. You should have 3 role models. I keep saying, I say this every week. Nobody pays
computer security in the world. Who's that guru?
Yeah, so I think
we don't have to know them, but you should know. You should have 3 people. You should go. A role model for me is Joe Blow, who's the leader of a secure company. They're the leading
who leads security and privacy for Apple or Google, right?
Yeah,
whoever that is.
Do you have that now, or someone who's a role model?
I have one. I don't know. Do you want me to? It's Adrian Ludwig. He's the head of security at Atlassian, which is a software company here in San Francisco. And previously he was a director of security at Google and at Nest.
Oh, that's good.
That's a great answer. So, why is he a role model for you?
I think he's one of the few, I would say, technical leaders that investors and the C-suite likes, as well as the R&D and IT teams. So he can speak to, I guess, like both sides of
that's
security.
Great. He's a role model because he's got real cross-functional talent. He can speak to the tech people and he can speak to the management people.
Yeah, they'd love to hear that.
Right. And then, do you know this guy, or do you know anything about him, or how do you know him?
He's fairly active in the security community, and security community. I don't know him personally, but the community is pretty tight knit here.
Yeah, okay, that's great. He's very active in security meeting. I've gone to presentations of his, yada, blah, blah, blah. That is an important little button to have when you go into this interview, role model. Bang.
And Sandy, how in the world does anyone really answer the question, why Harvard, why Stanford? Because after all, we know why, because those are the best schools. But you can't really just say, yeah, because of your reputation, your brand, your ranking. You can't say it. So what do you say?
Well, you can say those things, but I'll try and mention things that are not those things. For Harvard, you go, I'm really a fan of the case method. I've got a friend who goes to Harvard. I spoke to her. She said it's a great learning system. I went there. I sat in on a class. I was really blown away. How's that for an answer?
Perfect. Love it.
Same thing for Stanford, except you go, and Stanford, I really like the small community there. I like the engagement. I like the fact, that you can take a seminar your first semester or whatever they're able to doing. And I like the internship program. I got a friend who goes there, blah, blah, blah. Standard answers.
Good.
Okay.
Do you think Eric's roadmap is too narrow for a school? Because ultimately what Eric is, and he fits his stereotype. He's an engineer who wants to expand his horizon and get into.
That's a very important point, John. And
yeah,
for all the engineers out there, what you want to say is, you memorize this. I want to transition from a technical role to a management role, even if it's managing other engineers. And role models for me are people like X, Y, and Z. Good. Okay, we're going to leave with that.
Eric, good luck to you, okay? Look, you got everything here. You got great numbers. You got a great career already. You just got to polish it up, and you're good to go, baby. Yeah.
Great to hear.
All right. Yeah. Hey, thank you, everybody out there. Thank you, Sandy. And we'll see you next week on Fridays with Sandy.